This video is all about the mystery bong. Yeah, you're just driving along minding your own business and all of a sudden, bong! And you look down at the mid, what's gone wrong? Light dropped off again? No message at all. Press the check button, no, nothing reported wrong. What was that then? Well, first of all, let's discount two non-mystery bongs. First one is the memo button. Now, if you go for the set reset button and accidentally slip, you'll hit the memo button. And that's very annoying because on the hour it just goes bong. The other non-mystery bong is this one. There we go. That's the speed limit. Yeah, some people think it actually limits the speed of the car, but of course it doesn't. It just bongs at you when you go over the speed limit. I've set mine to 25. So I went bong, and now I've got a flashing light where it says limit on the mid. So those are two non-mystery bongs, a limit and memo. They're quite easy to get rid of once you know what caused them. Now this other one is a mystery bong, and I'd forgotten all about doing a video, so I thought I was going to do one of these a while ago. Forgot all about it, and then there was a message on the forum, a new thread said I was driving along and went over a bump and my car went bong. And it keeps doing it, but I don't get any message on the mid. I wrote, yeah, I know exactly what that is. I'm going to tell you how to fix it. And that's what this video is all about. I'm going to tell you exactly what it is and how to fix it. Righty-ho, so you've checked the memo isn't set and the speed limit isn't set either. This is where the problem's going to be. It's going to be the boot switch, but not the boot switch itself. Let me try and explain myself. Yeah, the reason you get the bong is you go over a bump, the boot lid lifts slightly and then closes again, or trunk lid, and that's just long enough to tell the mid that the boot's open. But by the time the mid's done the bong, the boot lid's closed again. It's just a quick flick up and down, and so you don't get the message. So you get the mystery bong but no message. I was very lucky to catch it one day when I just saw the word boot, and that was enough to make me realise this is where the problem was. And I thought that the boot just wasn't shut properly, so I slammed it shut again. The boot was never a great fit, to be honest. But the problem is not the boot switch itself. Well, let's have a look at the boot switch to start with. Okay, so here's the boot switch, and it's this that signals the mid that the boot is open. And what actually happens is if your boot lid is loose or too far up, and I'll explain that in a minute, it signals the mid that the boot is open. First thing to do, I mean, we're looking at the switch. It's a very simple switch. I'll take it apart for you. Right, let's have a quick look at the switch itself. There we go, two leads, brown one and a white with a brown, meaning they're both grounds. So it doesn't matter if you short it to the metalwork as it goes in and out. Doesn't cause any problems, and you can see how it works. Metal barrel to the switch, and when you press the plunger in, the whole rest of it comes out, and so the contacts aren't connected with anything at all. So it's really got to be all the way out before it actually contact and tell the mid that the boot's open. So this isn't usually the problem. Okay, so our first place to look is actually where this lands. So we've got the boot switch here. It actually got a landing point on the trim at the back of the boot. So there we go, there it is. So make sure your one of these isn't broken, because if this is broken, then the boot switch is never going to be turned off correctly, because this is the boot switch lands on this. So if this is damaged in any way, then the boot switch is going to keep turning itself on and you're going to keep getting the message. Right, well, here's the latch. And like all mechanical parts of an E31, it's at least 25 years old. And it's got 25-year-old grease in it, and what happens is the grease starts to harden, and instead of fully going over the latch pin in the top of the boot, it only partially closes it, gets stuck, and then the boot's free to move up and down. And that's generally what happens next, is people adjust the bump stops and the boot lid's too high, and that's why you get the message, or just the bong on the mid. So there's one of the bump stops. So you close your boot and it's rattly. So you think, okay, I'm going to adjust the bump stop. So I'll get this one out. The way you adjust them, get them out far enough so you can get hold of the thread, and then hold on to the thread, and then put your thumb on the end of it, and you can adjust it to anywhere you like. So that is now a long way out, and my boot isn't actually going to shut. But that's what happens, is the boot's rattly and people adjust the bump stops. So they think, that's it, it's not rattling anymore. The problem is the boot is now too far up. And the light clusters must line up. This line must line up with the light cluster on the wings, and they must be exactly the same level. And what you'll probably find is these are higher now. The boot's higher than the light clusters. Okay, so the problem here, of course, is the boot is now too far up. The light switch isn't being pressed properly, although the boot does now shut properly. But that isn't where the problem is. The problem is with the latch itself. So let's get this bump stop in so that I can make absolutely sure my boot's going to close. This is where we need to check. Now, are these two parts lined up? This should be exactly in line with the outer cluster. And if it's higher than that, then the boot lid's up. The catch isn't doing its job and the bump stops are too far out. Should be the same both sides, and I'm glad to say mine are. So what's happening is the catch is failing to catch properly, and so you accommodate that problem by adjusting the bump stops. Problem with adjusting the bump stops, that makes the boot switch open all the time. Okie dokes. So the way to sort that out is you need to remove the 25-year-old grease. You can either remove the whole latch, and I'll show you how to do that, it's quite easy, or you can use a bit of penetrating oil to clear off the old grease and then grease it from this side. It's easier when the whole thing's out, but it can be done from here, and in fact a bit of grease and a bit of oil will probably sort the problem out, and the boot will then land much lower and you won't get the warning anymore. Right, so as I said, there's 6 fixings. There's 4 across the top, 2 at the bottom. These are blind rivets, so they have a stalk that go in the middle and it spreads out the plastic rivet just like a raw plug does. So if you've got the mushroom headed ones, you can get a pair of side cutters under it, pop the mushroom top off, and then they'll come out. But I'm pretty sure this is original, i.e. this is the way that it was done originally, where it just has the stalk, and in which case you just get a flat bladed device like this is, so that's a Torx screwdriver, and just thump them and they'll go down, pop out the bottom of the blind rivet and into the cavity back there, and if you're lucky you'll find them, but as a general rule they just disappear and you have to use new ones, or at least new stalks. I'll keep my mushrooms because I've got new stalks for them. 4 mushrooms there, 2 mushrooms at the bottom. And then you've got the loom for the actuator and the loom that runs from left to right. So put those over there. And I forget they're there at some point. Okay, so that's off. What can you see? Oh, you can see enough. Rightio. And then we've got there's a big loom that runs around the back that goes through a couple of hoops that side. And a couple of hoops this side, 1, 2. There we go, and that's off. Yeah, it's one big moulding that sort of disintegrates over time. Right, let's hoik the latch out. Right, there we go. There's the actuator in its entirety. So it's got the mechanical latch on one side and it's got the electronic actuator on the other, and you can actually separate the two of them by undoing that screw and these 2 screws here, and then this joint here can be dislocated from the plunger here. Problem with mine was that the spring, it's got a return spring in it that does the action, because it locks it and then goes back to its original position. It never returned, so it never latched the boot properly. And that's, I can show you a picture of that. There was a gear and it had a spring in it, a radial spring, and it was meant to be connected to the outside of the plastic and to the shaft, and the one which went to the shaft, the end that went to the shaft broke off. So that's why it stopped working. Okay, so that's the actuator. Now, if the mechanical or electronic part starts failing, then it will not hold the boot down correctly. Also might not allow the boot to be opened again using the actuator. So, which is why it has this button. So that mechanically opens the boot from using the emergency procedure. I might as well tag the emergency procedure on there just in case people don't know about it. Now, if you're in a situation where you can't get the trunk or boot open, and I'll call it a boot from now on because I am English, what are you going to do? Well, you should know there's an emergency procedure for getting the boot open. First of all, I use the standard key, 3-button key. Key goes in, anti-clockwise, remove the key, press the button up. Get your hand round the boot lid like that so that the actuator arm comes out fully. And that's all this half has to do. The rest of it's associated with the bottom half. So we do it again. Key in, arm, put your hand round the boot ready to go, give it a good firm push upwards, actuator arms up, that's fully working. But those, we usually get them from eBay or something like that. So cheap and easy to replace. Very good. Right, I've treated the rust with a rust converter. So what I'll do is I'll put this back in and then we can put on the lovely new bit of plastic. That'd be nice. About time the car had something nice and new on it. Okay, so there's a bit of adjustment on the boot lid if I remember correctly. So you can loosen these off a bit and then you'll find the latch can move up and down a certain amount. And what I've done is I've marked where each of the bolt heads are, so I can realign it to those places just there. And I can do that back up again. Right, time for a new plastic bit. I've been wanting to change that for such a long time. Yeah, the old one was just starting to disintegrate. But that's what it looks like. It's got all these hooks on the inside for the looms. 4 of those, and then it's got 6 places, 4 at the top and 2 at the bottom, 1 there for the mushroom headed what's it. So we'll plonk that into position, get all the leads in the right place. Righty ho. So first thing we'll do is we'll put all the leads back in place. So it's got the 4 hooks and there's a centre one as well that it just sort of rests on. There we go. So that's all the loom all the way through the 4 catches. And what we'll do is just lift it up and over and in position, and then we can fit our fixing in. Let's make sure that it all sort of, yeah, all lines up nicely. And as per usual with these mushroom kits, none of them fit properly. So I've got a whole set of mushrooms. Yep, and they're all the wrong size. So what I'm going to do is going to use the old mushrooms. They've got their middle sticks missing, and what we'll do is we'll use the middle sticks from some of these. They're going to be quite a tight fit, I should think. There you go. Squash that in. Wind's picking up now, that's for sure. There we go, that's 1. And there we go then. Yeah, I'm very pleased with that. Yeah, obviously didn't have a problem with the Mystery Bong, but oh, it's nice to change that panel anyway. That big moulding made such a difference. It looks so much better in the boot with that. And of course I've got this all levelled up now as well. Okay, so that's the case of the Mystery Bong, and that did affect the E31 and the E32, E34s and E36s. By the time you got to the E38, the mid was a lot quicker, and if you got a bong, you got a message. But on the earlier cars, you could get a bong and no message, and then it's very confusing to work out exactly what's gone wrong. Anyway, yeah, the mystery bong all sorted. Put the thumbs up if you enjoyed that. Keep subscribing, keep commenting, and read all the comments, and I'll see you in the next one.